Hey guys, Willie Mayette, creator of Jazz Edge. Welcome to lesson 41 of Jazz Piano Daily. Today we're going to be talking about improvising over Fly Me to the Moon, and we're going to be utilizing our chord tones. All right, so let me just go ahead through, and I'm just going to play this for you, and then we'll break this down. Whoop, we're not going to do it that fast, though. We'll bring this down to, and we'll do 120. All right, so we're just going to focus on this first part of the song so we can really focus on these ideas rather than trying to build a solo over the entire form at this point. All right, so let's really focus and dig deep into this first measure and talk about what we're doing here. Now, when we are improvising over a jazz standard, all right, there's different approaches that we can take, meaning that we could get right into chromaticism, we could do scales, we can do enclosures, neighbor tones, all of that kind of stuff. But really, some of it is putting the cart before the horse, right? When you're first getting started with improvisation, and one thing that I like to do as a teacher is I like to teach you step by step, all right? So not throw you into the deep end of the pool right away, but instead teach you step by step. So you might listen to some of this stuff and be like, oh, Willie, that's the lamest sounding improvisation I ever heard. Yeah, okay, I get it. I wouldn't play this either. But the point is that if you don't understand what's going on here, then it's going to be very, very difficult for you to be able to understand what comes later, right? And what's going on when we start to get a little bit more advanced. So bear with me on this. Even if you're an advanced player, you might find that there's some ideas in here that might be useful to you. All right, so the first thing is you want to think in terms of like the boulders, sand, and then water, right? Obviously, boulders are big, they take up a lot of space. You fill the sand in, the sand goes in between the boulders, you put water in, and that fills in all of the space, okay? So just this idea of you can break up your improvisation into the big pieces and then start to get a little bit more granular and then start to get even more granular from there, right? So chord tones, that's your boulders. Right? So all I'm doing here is I am literally, when I have my A minor 7, I am playing notes from that A minor 7 chord. So all of this in this measure is all going to be notes from my A minor 7 chord. Okay? Now you might say, but wait a second there, Willie. What about this one? That F natural is not in an A minor 7. Yeah, but you see what we're doing here. We're anticipating that D minor, so we're bringing in that F just a little bit before. Notice we're not doing it in here. So if we go in here and we just take a look at what we're playing, what are we doing here? We're doing the, whoops, sorry, not the root. This is the third. Then we move to the root. And then this is the 7th. Notice I'm not putting in flat 3 or flat 7. Because it's a minor chord. If you don't know that the minor chord should be a flat 3 and it should be a flat 7, well then you really have no business improvising just yet. I would say go back and really study your chords and make sure that you understand your chords. So here, I got 3, I got my 3rd, I got my root, I got my 7th, and what do I have here? I have my 5th, and then this is the 3rd of that D minor 7 chord. Okay. Also, notice direction. This is the other thing to kind of start to clue into. So you see how we're like kind of arcing down, right? And then what does it do? Then it, boop, scoots back up, right? So we can start to have some shape to our line. Right? And guess what? That would be a perfectly fine way of getting started in your improvisation for Fly Me to the Moon, right? So if I were to play, let's see, I'm going to need to do this. If I play Fly Me to the Moon, right? I mean, that line right here, just because it's simple chord tones, doesn't mean that you should immediately throw that out and poo-poo, like, no, that's no good. I need something more advanced. No, this is perfectly fine. All right, moving on to the G. What do we got? We got the same shape. So you see on the A minor, it was these notes, right? And then I went to the 3rd. On the G7, same thing there. Okay, so this is the 3rd, root, 7, 5, 3 of C. And what do you think we're going to do on the F, right? We're going to take that same pattern. Okay? And then we do exactly the same thing, for the most part, on the E7. And on the A7, I bring in the major third in the right hand. Why don't I stay on the C? Well, because on the A7 chord, that's going to create a lot of tension. It's going to be a sharp 9, right? So I go up to my major third. Okay? All right, so you see that it's a very basic phrase, okay? But this motif or motive, right? We are playing it throughout that whole first A section. Okay? And the nice thing about having a motif like this, that's kind of bum, ba, 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 da, right, that coming down and moving back up like that, is it provides some really nice structure to your improvisation. If you started off your solo like this and then branched off from that, people would listen to that and be like, oh, wow, that's really kind of nice. I kind of like it. It sounds very melodic. Versus doing, say, something like this. I mean, like what was that? Like kind of floating all over the place. You're just playing notes, and it really doesn't sound good. But now take a look, listen to this. Some comping. See how I can change the rhythm around as well? Now if I kept going with my improv. So hopefully you get the idea that these chord tones get a really nice sound. The beauty is that when you are improvising, you are typically thinking about the chord of the moment, right? So when we look at our song here, right, our arrangement, the chord of the moment here is obviously A minor. The chord of the moment here is D minor. The chord of the moment is G, and so on and so forth, right? So what you're doing is your chord tone improvisation is using right in here all notes from that chord of the moment. And then right in here, all notes from that chord of the moment. And then obviously so on and so forth. From here, it's all from the G. This measures all the C. That measures all the F. That measures all the B minor 7, flat 5. Okay? So that means that you can play any of those chord tones and it is going to sound good. Let me demonstrate for you. This is not written, but I think you'll see it. All I'm going to do is in the right hand, I'm going to play my A minor to my D minor to my G7 to my C major. I'm just going to focus on those 4 chords. So A minor, notice the top 2 notes come down for D minor, and these bottom 2 notes move down for G, and these top 2 notes come down for C. It's kind of an interesting pattern that happens. D minor, G7, C. All right, so now listen to what happens as I improvise using these notes. It all sounds good, right? I could even go so far as to like literally just arpeggiate the chords. Okay? I would rather hear that as an audience member than to hear this kind of stuff. Right? I mean, I don't want to hear that. I don't think you would want to hear that either, right? It just sounds, it doesn't sound good, right? It sounds like just free floating and not really hitting anything. So your improvisation, you want it to make sense, right? You want it to make sense, you want it to sound cohesive and sound good. Well, in order to do that, you got to make sure that you're hitting some of these notes that kind of fit with that chord, okay? It'd be the same thing as banana, right? What? What are you talking about, Willie? You're talking about music and then you just say the word banana, right? It's like completely out of left field. Same thing with your improvisation. If you're playing stuff that just does not fit with that chord, okay, then it might sound like, whoa, this just went all out of left field and it no longer sounds cohesive. All right, so this approach is a great approach to make sure that you have that cohesion in your solo. Utilize your chord tones. Now, what I have here, pretty simple rhythm. Da, 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 dee, ba. Okay? You don't have to do that rhythm. So notice I might go like... All right, so you see I can play around with the rhythm and I can have fun with it. You start by playing this first. Do that first, do it along with the backing track, okay? Make sure you get that down. And then once you have that down, the next phase is I would then go through and then see if you have some interesting stuff that you could play in there. You already have all of these notes in here, right? So you don't have to do anything in there. Instead, focus your attention on the back end here, right? These measures here that have nothing in them. So start with... All right, so you see I can add in a few notes in here on this measure that has nothing in it. And what am I using again? I am using my chord tones from the chord of the moment. So this should all be C major chord tones, should all be B minor 7 flat 5 chord tones, right? So now, don't worry if you didn't fully get all of this. Number one, you can watch the video again, but remember, I'm going to be doing many, many more of these Jazz Piano Daily lessons, so you will get it over time. If you are interested in grabbing the sheet music for today's lesson, just go ahead back to Jazz Piano Daily, or take a look at the card that just popped up in the top right. And yes, I ended up getting a comment on one of my YouTube videos. You know, you tell people to subscribe to your channel a lot. Yeah, I do, okay? Why? Because I think I can help you, right? I don't do this for my health or more for my benefit. I'm doing this for you so that you can learn to play jazz piano and you can learn to improvise. Now, if you're not interested in what I'm doing, fine. Like, don't watch my channel, okay? There's plenty of other people to take a look at. But if you do like what it is that I'm doing, do me a favor, like the video, right? That lets me know when I see in my analytics, I'm like, okay, these videos are getting likes. That lets me know that's what you're interested in. Subscribe to the channel because then you get notifications when I have new videos. That way you can kind of stay focused. One of the problems with YouTube is it's real easy to kind of like go all over the place. That's not what I do. If you haven't clued into who Willie Mayette is yet, I am a very kind of logical, step-by-step thinker. I think about curriculum. I think about pedagogy. I've studied that stuff. So I take the educational side very seriously. This isn't all just like a money grab trying to get you to subscribe to my site or like just seeing how many likes and subscribers I can get on my site. No, I want to see you actually learn. So these Jazz Piano Daily lessons, I'll be honest with you, it's a gold mine, right? I wish I had this when I was first learning. So if you stick with me on this, I'm going to be doing a full year of lessons in Jazz Piano Daily. Make sure you stick along with me. And then, like I said, if you want the sheet music, the first 45 days, completely free of charge. You'd be crazy not to go and download that stuff. It's free music. Go ahead and take it and follow along with the lessons. You're almost guaranteed to improve as long as you're willing to practice. All right, so anyway, that's my spiel. All right, I'll see you guys in the next lesson.